Ooh, I'm about to cut you loose. You're almost on your own. You'll never be alone. I'm still here. The last week, this week, please continue to send me your questions. I will answer on a final Yours Day video. I'm not going to leave you hanging. Even if you complete the course and you get the certificate that you've completed the course, still know I'm here for you. I will respond to any emails this final week on your final Yours Day video. What I'd like to show you are some tricks of the trade. Hey, we're talking about magic tricks, aren't we? The magic of masks in Photoshop, LightRoom, Bridge, and Adobe Camera Raw. And these are some tricks of the trade that you can actually utilize in any of those apps. Now, since it is Lightroom week, let me sneak into Lightroom and show you a couple of the examples. Again, I can perform what I'm about to show you, this magic trick, in Lightroom, of course, in Adobe Camera Raw, yes, in exactly the same ways, and in Photoshop, in the Adobe Camera Raw preference, Camera Raw filter, filter menu, Camera Raw filter. I'm showing you the Camera Raw engine for each of these tricks. I'm in the grid, I'm in the library. I'm going to type D with an item selected, and let's go to the Develop module. I'm in the Develop module, and we're going to take a little peek at a couple of tricks of the trade. Now, I'm looking at a panel in Lightroom called Snapshots. And snapshots, when I add, will allow me to save various iterations at my designated points of saved work, saved history. Now there's history, but that's different. History saves every tiny little thing, and I don't want that. I don't want to save, well, in my case, I don't want to save, I got out of bed, I put my left foot on the floor, I crawled into the bathroom, I climbed up to the sink, and I brushed my teeth. I don't need all those details. I need these details. I woke up. I got ready. I ate breakfast. That's the difference between history, every little thing, really, it's there. Or snapshots. These were particular points in time. I have an image that I'm done with, basically. And this is the particular point in time that I hit the plus sign and saved. Now, in Adobe Camera Raw, Command-Shift-S on a Mac will let you save the snapshot. There's no shortcut for that I'm aware of in Lightroom. In Adobe Camera Raw, if you want to save a snapshot or any particular point in your venture, in your adventure, in your steps, in your walk, on the PC, you do Control-Shift-S, Command-Shift-S on the Mac. That's a trick of the trade. Save particular points in time. Why? Because then I can go back in time. So I'm going to go back in time. Let me show you the first snapshot. And I make a habit in any of those places of saving. Hold on a second. Rick, are you telling me that you save snapshots in Lightroom? I do. Are you telling me that you save snapshots in Adobe Camera Raw? I do. Are you telling me that you save snapshots when you're in Photoshop in the Camera Raw filter? I don't, because you can't. There is no snapshots panel in the Adobe Camera Raw filter. Recall, that was one of the two things I could see over a YouTuber's shoulder and find that they were in the fake and not the real deal. So I do make it a habit of saving snapshots in Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw. I cannot save a snapshot in Photoshop with the Adobe Camera Raw filter. I tried to discipline myself that when I first open an image, I immediately save a snapshot, and I usually give it the name number 1. Now in Camera Raw, you just hover over a snapshot and it shows you what it looked like. In Lightroom, I have to click. Ew, that's what it looked like when I took this photo? Seriously? As opposed to the final, which I type, hey, in 2020, I was happy. I stopped. But I'm going to go back to 1. And let's show you some tricks of the trade. I'm in my global editing sliders. And I'm going to try this. I'm going to say auto. You figure it out. You figure it out. And in Adobe Camera Raw and or Lightroom, it's Command U for you figure it out, or Control U for you figure it out. It's the equivalent of sneaking over there and clicking the auto button. It's just a keyboard shortcut. Well, I don't mind what it did, but I think I want more golden tones. So I'm just playing with the white balance, but I'm doing it manually. I'm not saying white balance is any particular thing. I'm just clicking and dragging so that I get more yellow tones out here in my evening sky, my desert. Shadows, trick of the trade. Open your shadows. Open your shadows, particularly on your focal point, on your subject. Now, I've done that everywhere, but particularly on my subject. Trick of the trade. Another trick of the trade might be to select some masks. You know this already. This is something you've already been doing. I'm going to select my sky. And it found my sky, and oh, what was it thinking? Let's reset my sliders. Hide my overlay. I hit the letter O. And let's dial the exposure a little bit differently on the sky. Maybe I'm going to, trick of the trade, increase the saturation on the sky, or play with contrast either up or down to get the sky that I am looking for. Not bad, not bad. Trick of the trade. This is a great one. I'm going to hit the letter K for the killer tool. This one you want to write down for sure. I'm getting my brush, and I'm going to set my brush to some very particular values. I'm going to increase my clarity. Now, the trick I'm about to show you helps take a two-dimensional object like your photograph and create more of a fake three-dimensional pop, three-dimensional impact with this next trick. I call it clarify the edges. Clarify the edges. I'm going to paint around the edges of my main subject, and on those edges, in Lightroom it says, oh, would you like to give it more of a presence? Presence. Let me zoom in and let you take a peek. Presence. How do I increase the presence? The detail is really all this is. I need more texture. I need more clarity. I'm going to keep going. 3 things. I tell my, you already know this, we saved this as a preset earlier. I told my shadows to go up to about 30, my texture to about 30, the same with my clarity, the same with my sharpness. But I told you, let's sneak up and save that as a preset, which I've already done. And I pulled down and I've called it more clarity. What is more clarity? It saved my shadows at 30, not a magic number, my texture at 30, my clarity at 30, my sharpness at 30. That's all. I have a brush and I saved a preset, so I don't have to drag those 4 sliders. And what I'm going to do with that is paint clarity around the edges of my subject. I painted clarity around the edges of my subject, and it creates a bit of a 3D pop. Now I'm going to show you what I just did. There's the overlay, right? But let's see by poking it in the eye and the mask now, before and after. It's just a bit more 3D pop. Now I can always take that brush and add a little bit more pop wherever I see more details, like in this front end grill. Just whatever else I'd like to see pop a little bit more. That's a trick. Now these days it's pretty easy, isn't it, to intersect that. I remember I made a glow around the entire object. Some of the glow is on my subject. Some of the glow went outside my subject. And I have a better way to play this game these days, and that is to run intersect on just the subject. You hear me? I'm whining. You feel it coming up in me. In Adobe Camera Raw, if I hold the Shift key, intersect shows up. In Lightroom, I have to hold the Option key for intersect to show up. Don't shoot me, I'm just the messenger. Intersect with my subject. And it hides all that clarity I painted, and it keeps it only on the edges. Trick complete. When you run a clarity brush around the edges, go ahead and intersect it with your subject for best results. A little bit of fun. I'm going to hit the letter K for my killer tool again. And it created a new brush. This one's completely separate, a new mask separate from the one I just ran. I want a new one, a second one. They're distinct from each other. And what I'm going to do is look over at my sliders, and I want to darken. I want to make some dark. It's very dark right now. And I'm going to try to increase a little bit of contrast by bumping up the shadow underneath the car. I see where the shadow is. I'm just going to run a little darkening under those very shadowy areas. Well, it's a little dark, I might say to myself. I agree. And it also snuck up on the car. We've got a solution for that. Trick of the trade. Increase your contrast on your subject with its presence in the background, its contrast compared to the background. The shadow is acting as that for me. But I want to subtract, not intersect, subtract the entire car. Subtract the subject. There it is. Now that I've got it for real, I can play with the amount of that darkening to taste. Just a dab will do ya. Another trick of the trade. One more trick of the trade in this image before I continue to another. And that is a very wonderful, common trick where photographers the world over, throughout history of photography, would darken the edges and the corners. Lots of ways to do it. I'm not going to walk you through all of those. But my favorite way to darken edges and corners in a modern era today is to do a radial gradient. Now the radial gradient in Adobe Camera Raw is simply the letter J. Remember I showed you that when we were doing Camera Raw week. J for around a radial. The shortcut in Lightroom is a little bit crazier. It's Shift M. Shift M. Or I can create a new mask. How? With the radial gradient and go that way, the long way on purpose. But you can see I didn't lie. Shift M is the shortcut. Shift M for makes me crazy. But there it is. I've got a new radial gradient. What are we going to do? Grab your notes and write this down. Darken edges and corners. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to darken edges and corners. I'm going to utilize the radial gradient to do this trick of the trade. Got it. Now, before I do anything, I'm going to notice that it's remembering, in this case, the last thing I had done on my sliders, darkening. That works for me. But if you look over there and you see it's darkening or not, play with it a little bit. Just give yourself some darkening. The catch with the radial blend tool is it's going to want to do the inside of the shape that I make. Now, I only know that from experience. If I were to click and drag right now, I'm going to get a radial gradient. It's going to be darker in the middle and then fade outward. It's going to gradate outward, but it's going to put the darkness, whatever my sliders are here, inside the shape. I know that from experience. So either before, right now, or after I drag, I'm going to invert that. The shortcut in Adobe Camera Raw is X to exchange the inside for the outside. It's X, exchange. Just tap X. Lightroom shortcut is a little bit more difficult. It's apostrophe, as we've learned. So I'm going to tap the apostrophe to invert before I begin the drag. And you'll see, now where do I want the center of this? Maybe on this bright spot on the car. Okay, this is kind of what I'm after. Kind of what I'm after. It's a little too dark, but it also, didn't it, grab the car. It darkened areas of the car. So we once again will say subtract, please. Trick of the trade. Do a radial darkening, but subtract your subject or subjects. Bang. Woo! Loving this look, but it's a little dark for my taste. No problem. I'm going to go back over and readjust my darkening. Now, you know you don't have to darken. You could brighten. You could brighten. It's either or. It's just an edge and corner treatment. I'm just doing a little skosh. I'm making up words now. A little skosh of edit. I see there's a bright spot right here outside the car that's kind of attracting my attention. I don't think I care for it. I'm going to hit the letter K again. I'm going to paint with darkness right in here. Hello, darkness, my old friend. And subtract the car. Play with the amount of that darkness correction. I'm happier. That's kind of it. That's kind of it. Those are tricks of the trade to make your image really pop. Let's save a snapshot. Let's call it BPSOP. Let's go back in time and see the original. I clicked. It's gross. Back to BPSOP. I click. I think that's an improvement. I'm liking it. Let's go back and forth again. Now I'm doing before and after by clicking my snapshot, right? Befores and afters by clicking that. One more trick I could show you. It's not necessarily a trick of the trade. Everything I've shown you so far, I do. I run it with frequency. But here I might want to select and change my color. Perhaps when I was shooting my customer's car, they said, well, now that I look at it, the color's not quite like that. It's more green. Well, shooting it in this sunlight, shooting it in this golden hour may have changed the car color, and my customer's not happy. So I'm going to select a color range. I'm going to select the colors in this range. Click and drag. I'm grabbing colors in that range. Now, why did it go dark? Because it's remembering and retaining the last sliders. I'll reset. Ooh. Now that overlay is showing me it grabbed a lot more than my car. And I can start to refine. How much of it grabbed. But before I play with refine, I'm going to intersect with the car. In Lightroom, that was Option click. In Camera Raw, it was Shift click. Intersect with the subject. So now I'm restricted. Cool. It's not going to find that color anywhere else. But right here, now I have to look at the mask. Look at the mask. That's the main mask, yes. But I'm still talking about the color range. I've reselected the subcomponent for color range. Now I can refine. How much of that color am I getting? How much? I just want to make sure I get the car, most of the car color, without losing too much more. I'm good with that. I'm happy with that. That's my color range. Let's hide the overlay, O. And look down. I'm going to teach you about 2 different ways to play with color. Now, if you're very interested in all these sliders and what they do with or without masks, it's irrelevant. You'll want to take my Adobe Camera Raw course. I explain fully all of these things. But in this course, I'm really focusing on the masking portions of these. But if you really want to unlock the secret of what you do with masks once you get them, it's really in the Adobe Camera Raw course. I'm going to give you a little tease about that right here. Here's one called the hue. And whatever the hue is, and it's showing me this is what the hue currently is. It figured it out. It said that car is about this hue. Now it's a darker version of that hue, but that's the color. And if I click and drag towards green, I see right here, my car goes more green. So I'm going to zoom back in and let you get a good look. It says what you had was teal, but you've dragged teal now so that it's green. We showed you that in the Adobe Camera Raw week. It's a bit more green. Now I could keep playing and get some wild stuff, but my customer wanted green. I'm happy. Befores and afters are worth seeing. Okay, very good. I changed the car color. That mask is changing the car color. One way to swap color, and it's important, that word swap. The hue slider swaps color. It swaps color. As opposed to what? As opposed to this little color envelope below. It's really a big X in an envelope. It looks like an envelope to me. And what it does, it doesn't swap color. It adds a little layer of color above whatever color is already in existence. It adds a layer of color. Now, saturation between the two, pump it. Don't pump it. So I've got green, yes, but I want more pizzazz, more vibrance, more, what's the word I'm looking for? More pop in that green, more intensity of that green. That's saturation. I've changed the hue from teal to green. I've pumped up how much of that intensity of green I'll see, and I could add, with the envelope, another layer of green. Ooh, no, or yellow on green, I'm not sure, or pink on green. Oh, it's horrifying. So when I add with the envelope, it adds color on top of. I'll show you where now it looks gross. Coming up in the next example, a trick of the trade. It's going to look awesome. On this next image, I'm going to go to my main sliders, and I'm going to make this color image black and white. Click. It's black and white. I like this sort of blown out look. I don't mind it. We'll keep it. If not, I'll play with my exposure. No, I like it. A little bit of extra fun. You've already learned this. Let me do a radial gradient, Shift M, or add a mask. And I'm going to darken. You know that if I darken, it's going to darken the inside. Oh yeah, I told you before or after, you could invert it. That's the apostrophe key in Lightroom. But now I want to subtract my subject. So I've done the equivalent of adding a darkening value to the edges. Isn't that quite fun? What a trick. Now I'm going to cheat. Watch. And I'm going to say, carefully, add a new mask. Look at the steps I'm going through. Of people. There's my person. Click. It's finding parts. I want to click iris and pupil and then say create the mask. I now have a mask that says, well, it is the iris and pupil, but it doesn't have the right name. So I'm going to double click it and call it eyes. So I've just done that. I've just gotten a selection, a mask of the iris and pupils. 6 steps to do it. Check it out. If you've already gone through those 6 steps in Lightroom or Adobe Camera Raw, there's a preset panel. And in the preset panel, you can say, I'd like to add a preset, create a preset, trick of the trade, eyes, let's call it. And what do you want? Everything that you've done to this image? No. Maybe. No. Let's check nothing. What would you like to save automatically? Which 6 steps would you like to render into one click? Oh, my mask. I made a mask. Do you want to save all your masks? No, I want to save the eyes mask. That's it. I created a preset that did those 6 steps for me, and I'll have this forever and ever. I'll have it forever. Let's throw away my eyes mask just to show off. I don't have one called eyes. Now, you know I could go through all 6 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't want to. So I'm going to look at my presets, and I've got to go find in my presets. Where is it? Oh, there it is. My user presets. Whew. Gets complicated over there. Eyes. I'm going to click this, but I want you to look at my mask panel. Right now it only has mask 1. I'm going to click eyes. It stored it for me with 1 click. So masks are magic, but I want them to be efficient magic. I said save a preset that automatically searches for my subject, that person, his eyes, click, 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 iris and pupil, and save. It's going to save me some time. There are a couple of things I can do with those eyes, and it's time to show you the second magic trick with the envelope. This is a grayscale looking object. I made it black and white looking. But I can still click on the envelope and add a layer of color. That is what the envelope is brilliant at. Grayscale, add color where you want it. Now, I clicked one of these 5 starting points for color. Nothing, a little yellow, a little more yellow, a little blue, a lot of blue, because those 5 colors are standard filters in the long time field of photo shooting. These are standard filter colors for shooting outdoors and for warming. These are warming filters and cooling filters. I just chose one because it gives me a good start. But I don't want to see that much blue. So the saturation slider right here, it's a second saturation slider, isn't it? It's inside the envelope. Lets me dial the amount up or down. There's a little bit more. I'm happy. Just a tinge of that bluing. It's a trick of the trade. Let's close this image. Back to the grid. Let's go develop this young woman. When you look at your presets these days, there are some adaptive presets. They're built in from Lightroom. Camera Raw also. I want to enhance my portrait. Now I'm just hovering and it enhanced my portrait. What? What did it do? See if you can see what it did. There's enhanced. That's not enhanced. There's enhanced. They're giving us a clue about tricks of the trade. In the common industry, we would do something called a very common command, a very common call from a customer, especially with portrait photography, very common. Brighten eyes and teeth. Brighten eyes and teeth. And you'll notice that when I go back and forth, that what it really did when I said choose the enhanced portrait was it brightened the eyes and the teeth. And when I click, what it just did was saved via a preset all those masks. They just showed up. Iris and pupil, the whites of the eyes, the face, skin. What's happening when you click these automatic adaptive presets is they're doing just what you and I did manually when we saved eyes. That looked awfully quick and easy. Yes, but it's gross. They're poor quality. In my view, currently, they do mistakes too often. They make too many mistakes. You'll see that when I hover over her eyes, that's not just her iris and pupil. Is it? No. Oh. So I'm going to spend some time subtracting with my brush. For example, I find that the ones Adobe gives me are not ready for prime time. And so I find it much better to make my own preset, rather than go in there and clean up the ones Adobe have donated to me, kindly but ineffectually. Okay? I don't want to spend that time cleaning up. But you can see you learned what they think would make an enhanced portrait. Brighten the eyes and brighten the teeth. Remember that, and we'll come back. There, I've got a better selection of eyes and teeth. Eyes in this case. This is a trick of the trade. There's my iris and pupil. Here's the trick. But hear me first. In the modeling industry, in the portrait industry, they do a little trick of the trade that makes them look so beautiful, so attractive, so, oh, I want to know that person. It's a silly little trick. It looks like this. When they're shooting in studio, they have a white sheet of paper. It's usually much larger than this, a white sheet of paper or a reflector, and they're holding it just under and out of the view of the frame. I unpack a lot of this in the Adobe Camera Raw course, but they hide it outside the frame. And that has this result. It brightens just the lower curvature of the under iris. And that, it turns out, sells beauty, glamour, positivity. So I'm going to figure out a way to fake it on my own. Here's how we do it. Trick of the trade. You know what we're after? A little brightening on the underside. Here's what I do. I start with the iris and pupil. Start with that. Start with it. And then I intersect. I'm going to do Option in Lightroom, Shift in Camera Raw to intersect with a brush. And I'm just going to paint. It's only going to show me what these have in common. A little underside glow. A little underside glow. Now, if I go too far, I'm just going to hold the Alt key or the Option key, and I can erase what I've just done. Just a little underside glow. That's all we're doing. That's the area we're going to change. I'm going to hide my overlay. Here's the change. Add a little light. And I mean it, a little light. Just add a little light. And go back and look at it in context. Not zoomed in. I'm going to hit the, no pun intended, eyeball icon by iris and pupil to see before and after. You see there's just a little bit of light on the underside of her eye. I'm going to crank it a little bit more. In context, I want to see if it's too much or too little. Oh, it's beautiful. I'll take it. Trick of the trade. Another trick of the trade. Another trick of the trade. New brush, K, is where there's an existing highlight. Wherever you see the existing highlight, I'm going to squirt. I'm going to paint and paint on both highlights. And I find that when I raise my exposure a little bit and my highlights a lot and whites a lot, but then tell my contrast to go up and my blacks to come back down. That's the iris. I mean the pupil. right? I don't want my pupil to get brighter. I just want the stuff around it to go brighter. And so I'm making my highlight have more emphasis as well. You see the difference? That has impact. Nice highlights say healthy, moist eyes. Good glow on the bottom, positivity. That's it. Let me show you before and after, right? For just the highlight. I might save this as a snapshot. Let's go do it. Save snapshot. I've already done it, by the way. Here's no eye treatment. This is where we were a moment ago. Here it is. I saved a snapshot with the eye treatment. Oh, world of difference. No eye treatment. She's a beautiful woman. Eye treatment. Much inspired. Trick of the trade. Back to the grid. Speaking of beautiful woman, let's sneak back in on this one, and I can't even see her eyes, but we're going to have a little fun anyway. You know we are. Shift W, I'm in my masks. I've already selected a mask of objects, and I went in and I surrounded with the object selection tool just her lenses, and it remembered it. It saved it for me. So I have it saved. There it is. That's what we're going to play on this time. Okay? I'm going to zoom back a little bit. Another trick with intersect. Let's intersect. I'm holding the Option key. Or 3 dots. Intersect with. If you don't want to remember the keyboard shortcut. Intersect with what? I'm going to choose a linear gradient. In this case, several ways to do this, but I'm going to say, please intersect what I'm seeing with a linear gradient. Show me what they have in common. I want to use the top half of her glasses. Click and drag, and now you see the pink, and I'm changing the angle. I'm seeing just that top section is all I have. And what do I want to do there? Well, I'd like to reflect more of the blue sky, so I'm going to change just the top to more bluing, maybe less saturated, but I want that blue sky to reflect in those glasses. Trick of the trade. Select objects, intersect with those objects to have reflections or other glows. There's before and after. You see the difference. That was with my lens. Trick of the trade. Let's go back to the grid. Couple more. Listen, I don't have to even explain what to do, but when I open this image, what did you look at first and why? You looked at this graduate. Good. I wanted you to, right? But why did you look at this graduate above or first of the other many subjects? It could be quite confusing. There's a lot going on, very busy. Why? Because I went out of my way to make a mask and make him a little brighter than the others. Now he's holding a diploma. I assume he's a little brighter, but is he brighter than the others? They're all holding diplomas too. A little brighter makes a difference. You could select the opposite of your subject and darken them a little bit. Now, if you darken everything, even the shirt collars, it may look fake. But if you darken just the shadows and leave the brights where they are, you can get away with murder. We're playing this game with our mask. It's not enough to make a mask. It's what do we do with the mask? Another image. This will be our last image. Develop module D. I'm going to make K. I'm going to make a brush. Actually, I'll show you one more after this. I'm going to make a brush that's darkening. I don't like that dark or that bright light in the background there. I think it's quite disturbing and distracting. There, I just painted right through. But what? But it just painted a big dark area on my dog. Sorry. So, not my dog. So I'm going to say, will you do me a favor and subtract my subjects. And it just leaves that darkening band behind the dog. Trick of the trade. Use it to paint out offensive, bright, or dark spots, but don't let it impact your subject. How about another? Let's add a new mask of my subjects. Both my subjects. Why are they dark? Because the last thing I did here was darkening. See, I don't have the box that says reset sliders automatically in between. Sometimes I just keep on going. But if I want to reset, there's reset. Everything's back to 0. Now, my subjects, I have 2 of them. So I'm going to intersect with a brush. Who did you want? Well, I just wanted this of my 2 subjects. Wow, that's so easy. I had 2 subjects, and now I'm saying intersect with just this one. Why? Because I want to open the shadows and maybe run my clarity. There's detail, fur, that I want to see. I've already saved that preset as clarity. Nice pop. Nice pop. Hey, you know what? I want to add a little more saturation. I want to pull the color out too. Very good. That dog can stand to have some clarity added to him. I wouldn't want to do that to the baby. Babies are soft and lovable. So let's go back and reselect my subjects and intersect with my brush. I'm using my brush to do the intersection. Intersect with this. Now it's showing me darkening because that's the last way my sliders were set. I'm going to reset. What might I do to the baby? Well, I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to do the opposite of clarity up, texture up, and so on. Let's do texture down, clarity down. I still like some color. Oh, but the baby's going to be a little bit more flesh toned. I'm just playing with my color sliders. 2 different takes, but I'm utilizing the easy for me, select my subjects, masking, so that I can just intersect and pick which piece I choose to do. Before and after. Big change. Back out to the grid. There's one more I have to show you. I can't stand it. Let's go grab stars. Many of you are shooting astrophotography. I love astrophotography. I love the detail I see in images like this. But let me take you back to the beginning, what it looked like when it came off my camera. I don't like that. So, trick of the trade. Trick of the trade. Astrophotography is always too yellow. We live in a dirty environment. Pollution, the atmosphere, it doesn't sell very well. So one thing you'll want to do is make your white balance go more blue. I am petrified when I see these beautiful astrophotography images posted on Instagram and there's still pollution yellow. Oh, it's an easy fix. Trick of the trade. Another trick of the trade. I'm going to go grab my cropping tool because my horizon is cocked. It needs to be level. Make sure your horizons are level. It's an amateur move to have unlevel horizons. I can do it by going to the cropping tool. Now in Adobe Camera Raw, the shortcut to access the cropping tool was easy. C, cropping tool. It's not easy in Lightroom. It's R, for cropping tool. It's R, or I'll just go click it because I can't stand it. I'm going to click it. And when you click it, you get all sorts of magic, which I'll unpack in the Camera Raw course. But there is a level that shows up. click the level, sneak over to your horizon, click and drag and show it your leveled horizon. Show it your horizon, and when you let go, it levels it. Hit return or enter. I'm golden. Hey, this is the magic of masks, and I've shown you how to create masks. I've shown you how to grab things you want, make masks out of them in Photoshop, LightRoom, Adobe Camera Raw with Bridge. I've shown you how to do the magic of masks. You make a selection before you do stuff to them. You know that. But I want to remind you of a very important fact. Every slider masks. No masking panel necessary. The magic of these sliders is that they are themselves instant mask makers. They won't show up in your mask panel. They just mask. Let me show you. If I dial the shadows down, trust me, it has masked the shadow areas and only darkened those. What if I grab the whites, the stars, and go up? It automatically has masked the stars. I don't have to mask stars. That's what the whites slider is doing. Highlights is masking the highlights. Look at the water down below. That's the ocean, by the way. Don't know that I care for that. So you don't need to create masks. In so many cases, the sliders will do the mask work for you. I just thought you should know that. I'm going to sneak down and increase the texture. That's a beautiful star fix. Clarity is a beautiful mid-tone star fix. Oh, you mean like the arm of our spiral galaxy? What we call the galactic center? That's this space right here. Those are midtones. And that's going to be not pure white, but almost white. These whites. Blacks can go in the other direction to make contrast. That is a big, big difference. But now I need to mask. I'm going to do Shift W. Please create a mask of my sky. I wonder if it could sort it out. Wow, it did sort it out. But it's also applying whatever last settings I'd done on my sliders. I'll reset, and I'm going to invert apostrophe in Lightroom or option apostrophe if I have lots of subcomponents. Either one of those will work for me now. Everything but the sky, we're going to call that the ocean or the water, and I'm just going to dial their highlights down, their whites down, their saturation up or down. I got away with murder by just playing with sliders before I ever had to actually make my first mask of the ocean. So do rely on your sliders. Understand them inside and out. Know what they mask. And you won't have to make masks as often. All right, my friends, one more bonus video to go in this, as I promised, a short week. And it's more of a gift than more work. We're going to sneak out of Lightroom, and I'm going to wrap one loose end for you in the final bonus video, video 4. Enjoy.